Today is Tuesday, Vav Iyar, Tavshin Ayin Gimel. We are in Teres Menachem, Sefer HaMamorim, Tavshin Yud Aleph, Tavshin Yud Beis. In the Maimer of Shabbos Pasha Shlach, Mevachem HaChedesh Tammuz, Tavshin Yud Aleph. On page Kuf Gimel, and we are up to Ois Gimel, chapter 3. The Rebbe asked, why did Moshe Rabbeinu think or agree that the spies should be sent to spy out the land when the entry of the Eden would have been in a miraculous way? It seemed to be irrelevant. The Rebbe began to explain this by explaining what is the idea of entering into Eretz Yisrael altogether. And the Rebbe explained that when the Eden entered into Eretz Yisrael, they began to fulfill mitzvahs in earnest. So long as they were in the desert, they served Hashem more in a spiritual way. And in Eretz Yisrael, they began to serve Hashem in a practical, actual, with physical objects, with physical activities. To understand the quality that a mitzvah maisis, practical mitzvahs, an active mitzvah in actuality, a mitzvah with something gashmius, something physical, the special quality that this possesses over and above serving Hashem spiritually, the Rebbe brought the difference between the two types of neshamas, one type known as Livyosan and the other type known as Sherabar. Livyosan being neshamas that are like fish that live in the sea, meaning to say that they are souls that come from Alma Diskasia, from the concealed world, much like the sea conceals everything that's in it. And the nature of the creatures that live in the sea is that they're constantly connected to their life source. Similarly, neshamas that come from the Alma Diskasia, from the concealed world, even when they come into this physical world, remain neshamas from that world, from the other world. And therefore they serve Hashem in a Alma Diskasia mode, which is more spiritual, like the Rashbi in the cave, like the Arizal, like the Baal Shem Tov, who served Hashem. They engaged in serving Hashem in a process known as Liyachid Yechudim Alyonim, to unite the celestial unions, where they have the ability, because of the power of their neshama, of their soul, to combine different divine energies in the spiritual worlds, and through that to affect whatever needed to be affected. Whereas then there are neshamas that are called Sheir Habar neshamas, souls that are like the great ox, so to speak, which is a metaphor for souls, for neshamas that serve Hashem in a more in a physical way through practical mitzvahs. And that I've explained that by serving Hashem in the second mode, the Gashmias, we discover within the Gashmias the objects and activities that we engage in the divine energy, which is greater than the life force of the person, the individual, that engages in that activity. So therefore there is a qualitative advantage in serving Hashem, the Gashmias, over and above serving Hashem Beruchnias, spiritually. And this is in fact what... So, coming back to Midbar, that I've explained, that in the desert, Yidden served Hashem spiritually. All their physical needs were taken care of through the clouds of glory, through the well of the rock that gave out water, the Be'er Shel Miriam, the well of Miriam, and through the mon that fell from heaven. So they were completely free from looking after the physical needs, and their emphasis was on serving Hashem spiritually, either through thought or through speech, which means through learning Torah, which is more spiritual relative to what? To the actual fulfillment of mitzvahs. However, when they came in to Eretz Yisrael, this was the chidush, this was the innovation that came about, was this engagement, the possibility, the opportunity to engage in serving Hashem with physical mitzvahs, which is higher than what? Than serving Hashem spiritually. That's where we're up to. Chapter 3, Omnam. However, Kedei Shetuchal Liyas. Again, page Kuf Gimel, chapter 3, Ois Gimel. However, Kedei Shetuchal Liyas Aveda the Kiyama Mitzvahs Begashmis Dafka. In order for there to be the ability, for one to have the ability to serve, to fulfill mitzvahs specifically, physically, as opposed to what fulfilling the mitzvah spiritually, as mentioned before. Through which we reach through the fulfillment, through the fulfillment of mitzvahs physically, we reach higher, as mentioned before, as articulated above. For this we needed, it was necessary to have an infusion of power from above, specifically. Meaning to say that since through the fulfillment of a mitzvah physically, we discover and we reveal a level of godliness which is much higher than serving Hashem spiritually. In order to be able to do that, we needed an extra infusion of strength from Hashem in order to accomplish this. V'hainu. Chazal say, the Gemara says in Sukkah, that a person has a Yetzer Hara. Hashem created the person with a Yetzer Hara, which holds the person back from doing what the person needs to do. And if not for Hashem helping, assisting the person in serving Hashem, a person would not be able to overcome one's inclination. That holds him back from serving Hashem, doing what he has to do. So it would seem that for everything you need in the Sinas Kaya, for everything you need help from Hashem in order to accomplish it. Is the help that we're talking about over here, in order to engage in physical mitzvahs, is it any different? So the Rebbe says yes. The one that the Gemara talks about is after already Hashem gave us the Avodah. Here you have, this is the job you need to do. Go ahead and do it. So Hashem gives us the ability helps us, assists us in doing the job. Here we're talking about, however, the Rebbe says, even before this concept of Avodah exists, before we even start. Let's see how the Rebbe articulates it. Which means, in addition to the infusion of strength, concerning which our sages say in the Talmud, that if not for Hashem helping us, we would not be able to do what we need to do. We would not be able to overcome our evil inclination. Which is the infusion of strength which Hashem gives us after there is already this concept of service, of serving Hashem. At which point we need assistance from above to overcome all the concealments and hindrances, etc., that exist. In addition to this infusion of strength, also in the beginning of serving Hashem, so that there could be this phenomenon of serving Hashem physically. There is a necessity for an infusion of strength from above, even before you start. Why? To use a physical object and to discover within that physical object the great revelation, to discover within it the revelation of godliness, which is greater than the usual. That's a special type of Avodas Hashem. For that, we need a special Nesinas Koach, a special infusion of strength. So that's before it even starts. Well, once we have that Nesinas Koach, that infusion of strength, then when we start our Avodas Hashem, right, and we run into difficulties, HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and says, okay, you have done your bit. That will call forth a reaction from Hashem to assist us in the process. But that is already once we start. That's the one that the Talmud refers to. Here the Rebbe says even before you start, just so that there should be the ability that we should be able to start, that we should be able to engage in this type of Avodas Hashem. For that you need a special Nesinas Koach. It's the Isarusa de La'ela which comes before the Isarusa de L'Sata. It's the awakening of above, it's the infusion of strength from Hashem, which comes on its own initiative, that gives us the kickstart, as it were, that we should be able to engage in that. And then, through serving Hashem, and we run into difficulties, Hashem reacts and assists us, and then we discover the divine koyach halaki that exists in this physical object, in this physical activity, and we reach even higher than we would have without that. And the Rebbe articulates it further. And the Rebbe goes on and says like this, Ubahaktim. First, let's preface this. We are talking about three general points, three general components that are necessary in relation to serving Hashem. These three ideas, these 3 points, when we talk about serving Hashem generally that are connected to serving Hashem, which are number 1, the infusion of strength from above, for there to be able to be the fulfillment of mitzvahs physically, right? The infusion of strength that Hashem gives us before we even start. Number 2, avodah atzma. Then serving the service itself, right? Doing the actual avodah Hashem. And then number 3, and then drawing down the awakening of above through our awakening from below when we run into difficulties. So the Rebbe says these 3 components in avodah Hashem, matzinu gam b'inyan HaTorah, we also find it in Torah. Right? Here we're talking about mitzvahs. Avodah Hashem through mitzvahs. The Rebbe says we find these 3 ideas also where? In Torah. And the Rebbe spells it out. The key, the Zohar says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, looked into the Torah and created the world. Right? The Torah is the blueprint for the creation of the world. The Hashem wanted to create the world, he looked into the Torah, and he followed the Torah, and through that, the creation of the world took place. So what does that mean? That the physical world is an actual practical application, which stems from where? From the Torah, directly from the Torah. So therefore the Rebbe says, since that's the way it is, that's what the Zohar says, how do you move on? It's understood. That everything starts where? In the Torah. So if we have these 3 things in what we need to do in the world, which was created through what? Through the Torah. Therefore, in the Torah, we'll find these components as well. So where do we find these 3 things in Torah? We know that in Torah there are 3 levels. Yerusha, V'Yegia, Umatana. Yerusha, inheritance. Yegia, toil. Matana, gift. Dihine, Ksiv. It says in the pasuk, a pasuk that every Yid knows, Torah tziva lanu Moshe me'rasha kilas Yaakov. The Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu instructed us, commanded us, is an inheritance for the congregation of Jacob, for Klal Yisrael. What does that mean? V'hainu shah Torah hi b'chnas Yerusha. In this pasuk, the pasuk refers to Torah as what? As an inheritance. Then we also find that learning Torah comes specifically to the person investing energy and toiling and working hard to achieve knowledge in Torah. K'mayim Razal is the Tanoim say in Masechta Avos, which we just said last Shabbos, because it's in chapter 2. Haskin atzmecha lilmei Torah, prepare yourself to learn Torah. She'eina Yerushalach, because it's not an inheritance for you. Here you have to prepare yourself to learn Torah. Why? Because you will acquire knowledge in Torah specifically through what? Through harav, through toiling. So here we see Torah referred to as Yegia. We also find that Torah is referred to as a gift. Like the usual expression, Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. Matan, from the expression of what? Matana, gift. And our sages also say in the Talmud and in the Medrash that initially Moshe would learn Torah and he would forget it. He kept on learning and forgetting what he learned. Ad shenitna lei b'matana, until it was given to him as a gift. So we see that Torah is referred to as what? As a gift. What does that mean? These 3 components. There is the idea in Torah. There is a component of Torah. There is Torah as it is an inheritance for each and every Yid, which is the son of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is also the idea behind the fact that the word Yisrael is an acronym. It stands for the following words. Yesh Shishim Ribui Oisis LaTorah. There are 600,000 letters in the Torah. That is the acronym of Yisrael. Why? This indicates Shalakol Echad ve'Echad Misrael, that each and every single Jew, Yesh Eis Batera, he has, or she has, every single Jew has a letter in the Torah, Shal Yoda, through which Mekabel Chayusay, he receives his life force, his life force, his sustenance. In fact, just as an aside, there are 805,000 letters in the Torah if you count them. So what's Yesh Shishim Riba Yesus LaTorah? So the answer is, I'm just going to say it briefly because Yesh Nish Neged Al Asar, but there are also letters in the Torah that are not included, like the vowels, which are just letter. It's called Eisus HaMachshava, right? So there are certain letters that would vowelize, as it were, the word, but we don't actually write them out in the Torah. They're just there because that determines how, through the pronunciation, they're there, as it were. If you combine all of them together, you get 600,000. But be that as it may, so it includes the actual letters and also the Eisus HaMachshava, right? But anyway, so that's what Yisrael is. Yisrael is an acronym. There are 600,000 letters in the Torah through which each and every Yid gets his chayas. In addition to this, in addition to the fact that every Jew has a letter in the Torah, by virtue of the fact that he's a Jew, which is the idea of what? Yerusha. There is also the idea that a person has to what? Learn Torah with Horavanya, with toil specifically. B'hainu she'inyon yimela she'ef shalam ed aleim bi'yigia ef shalav aleim el al yidei yigiyah dafke. Those ideas, those aspects of the Torah that a person is able to achieve and accomplish and could establish through toil, through learning it, through harabing, through working hard, a person will not be able to arrive to them with any other method. He will need to engage in what? In Yigiyah specifically, in Haravin, in toil. Beyond this, there's a higher level. There is the concept of Torah as it is a gift, which is something which is given from above specifically. Why? This is a level of Torah which a person cannot reach through his effort. So that Hashem gives him as a gift. And as explained earlier, where earlier? In the previous Maimer, Alpayim Shana, concerning the Pasuk in Mishlei in Proverbs, where Torah is described as a nursling by Hashem. The 5 levels, if you remember, we learned in Torah. The lowest level of Torah being Shashuai Es B'nei Adam. The highest level is Torah as it is a nursling near Hashem. In other words, bound up with the very essence of Hashem. The lowest level as Torah is Hashem's plaything among men, among humans, which is Torah as it is down here in this physical world. So what did we explain in that previous? What did the Rebbe explain in the previous Maimer? That in Torah, as it is down here in that where is the essential component of the essential level of Torah, the highest level of Torah? Where does that find expression? That finds expression specifically where? In the level of Torah as it comes down at the lowest level. Shashuai es b'nei Adam, among human beings physically. Shashuai amelech ba'atzmusay. Shezehu shashu aidaf daike. In the second level of Torah it says shashuim, plaything. When does it say shashuai, my plaything, my delight, Hashem's delight? When Torah is discussed and is referred to in the lowest level, as it has been given to man. The koyal ve'eyatz le'amein. When you say shashuai, my delight, that is a reference to Torah as it is at the very highest level. Fisha Torah batzmusis borech, as Torah is bound up with the very essence of Hashem. This concept, this level of Torah, the highest level of Torah, as it finds expression in the lowest level, and through the practical, actual learning and fulfilling of the person, the human being over here, that which expresses Torah which links in and draws down and expresses the Torah at the very essence, as it's bound up with the very essence of Hashem. That is a gift that Hashem gives. But in order to reach this level of matana, to get Hashem to give us this gift, we have to first do our bit. And not only do our bit, we have to do our bit through haravan, through toiling in Torah. Similar to the expression of Chazal that is brought in the Talmud and the Medrash, that if not for the person, for one doing a nachas ruach to the other would not give him the gift. Why does one receive a gift? Why does one give a gift to another individual? Because that individual has done him nachas ruach. a favor, or has caused him enjoyment, or has done something favorable in his eyes. So that awakens him to give it. He doesn't have to give it to him, didn't earn it, but that causes the giving of the gift. Through the fact that we first do our bit, through haraven, through toiling, in those levels that we could reach through our work, through our effort, then we are given the level of gift in Torah. The Rebbe says something very interesting here. With this we will also understand that which our sages say in the Medrash, whoever sits and learns Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sits opposite him and learns together with him, opposite him. There's another saying of our sages, also that's in the Gemara, in the Talmud. Yud Beis Shoyos Hava Hayom. There are 12 hours in the day. And it talks about Hashem's schedule. What does Hashem do during the day? So it says, the Gimel Shoyos Rishonos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yeshiv V'Yisek B'Torah. The first 3 hours, Hashem sits and learns Torah. These two sayings of our sages, these two statements, seem not necessarily to go along with each other. The Lechura, why did we say that Hashem's learning of the Torah is limited to the first 3 hours of the day? Anytime a person sits down and learns, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yeshiv B'Sheinei Kenegdei. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and learns along with him, opposite him, sits across him and learns together with him. Right? So that's not necessarily limited to the first 3 days. It doesn't say that in the first 3 hours of the first 3 hours of the day, when a person sits and learns, Hashem learns opposite him. Anytime a person sits and learns, Hashem learns opposite him. What does that mean? So we're talking about 2 levels of Torah. When we talk about a HaKadosh Baruch Hu sitting and learning opposite the individual, which is any time that a HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and learns along with the person, that is when a person learns through haravanya, through his effort. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes along and joins him, which is a lower level. The idea of Hashem learning the first 3 hours of the day on his own, so to speak, that is the idea of the level of gift, the gift of Torah, which Hashem gives once a person has done his bit. That's why it's the first 3 hours. Why 3 hours dafke? Gimel Rishonos, generally, when we talk about in Kabbalah, we're talking about Chochmah, Bina, and Das, the highest levels of the Sfiras. But here we're talking about the highest levels of the Sfiras. The Koyal Gimel Rishonos is the Atik. We're talking about the Meichin, the intellectual attributes of Atik, the innermost dimensions of Keser, the highest level of godliness. This idea comes down and is drawn down and is bestowed in a way of a gift from above, dafke specifically, once the person has done his bit. So these are the 3 components as we find them in Torah: Yerusha, Yegia, and Matana. Inheritance, toiling, and gift.